Well, Chris.
I usually do it the other way around.
I thought I would take charge of this today.
Okay.
I feel the power, and
it's
going to my head, and I don't know what to do with it.
You go, boy.
You're not supposed to say that, you bearded weirdo. Well, today's headphone day.
It is,
as you know, which is why we're wearing headphones. And
it's concept.
I know we're supposed to introduce Rok officially, but I'm going to pre-introduce Rok right now. Hi, Rok.
Hey,
Rok.
Rok is coming to us live from Slovenia.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my question that popped into my head as we were starting this, I'll ask Rok as well. When you think headphones, like in your life on Earth, what comes to mind when I say first headphones? Like which pair is the one that comes to your mind?
The
little foamy Walkman ones, the little... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I would go maybe the Walkman type of headphones.
With the little foam?
Yes.
With the little
on that
thin
stuff.
band and the foam?
Yeah.
How about you, Rok? Where did you start headphone life?
It was probably the same with the Walkman thing, kind of like in the early 90s, I would say.
Yes.
And then the little Sonys. You remember the yellow Sonys?
That's what I was picturing with the little earbuds that go in sideways.
Those were great.
Those were amazing. And you could take them in the rain and stuff.
Exactly.
It was like the greatest. And then we all went to the kind of small version of these for a season. And they'd all fall apart. Like all the foam would fall off and all the pieces would come apart after like a day because you get sweaty. Yeah. So that was for me. Yeah. I think those little foam head. And have you been back to those ever?
No.
Like later in life?
No.
I found some while I was cleaning.
Moving
some of those old ones, and the foam had disintegrated.
Of course,
I put them on, and I cannot believe we endured that sound.
Oh man,
ever for a minute of our life. And now that we're into these beautiful handmade thingamajigs I'm wearing now, like I cannot imagine listening to actually falling in love with music.
They sounded bad. What about your first studio headphones?
My first, it was whatever Sony was selling that day.
Same here.
They were like, whatever like $90 Sonys all the cool people had that they were selling at whatever was before.
Mine was like, I remember at production school, the first set of headphones I bought was the 7506.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the time I was like, oh, they sound great.
Yeah.
And
Rok, what was your first studio?
My first truly studio headphones, I would say my own. Like for real?
Really?
Yeah. Well,
how did that start?
It was just a side project in my dad's garage, really. Just exploring things, on Saturdays, stuff like that. But eventually, friends came up and said, like, dude, I want to have one. Can I get one? Can you make me one? Can I buy one? Yeah. And eventually, it was like another friend and another friend and a colleague of a friend of a friend, and
and now you're in business.
Yeah, it's been a decade. Yeah.
Are you? And at the end of the day, when you're alone in your head, are you more of an electrical engineer type mind, or are you more of an audiophile listener type mind?
That's a very cool question. So I would say I'm just in love in creating things out of nothing. I believe that would be a part of my motto, just, make something. And that is then applied either to headphones, to research, to marketing, to internal processes, to how you treat your life, your colleagues, your family, eventually, how I treat you guys. Let's make something out of this. So it's like that approach, that drive of just creating things, even relationships or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. And did you start with headphones or did you start building other things first?
Well, things starts with Lego over here in Europe. They're super popular, and that starts at a young age. And then eventually those Legos will meet drills and hammers and clippers and electricity and batteries and stuff. And later on, you're capable of making stuff like, headphones, in my case.
Were you a Lego kid?
I was.
Yeah, me too.
Like big time.
Like big bucket. Like
yeah.
And it was before they had all the instructions and everything. You just had to.
Yeah,
you got a big bucket and you had to make it up.
Yeah, and then I went to the instruction packages like the police station, the fire station, all that stuff. It was the best.
Sorry, you were saying?
I was saying, I actually thought of maybe buying it like a huge kit of Lego at some point.
I have lots.
Even now, just like to build something. I don't know, Lord of the Rings.
I still have Lego kid age thing.
I went to the Lego store in Orlando.
Alone?
No.
Okay.
Not by myself. It was
you pull up in a van. I need a lot of Legos. Quick. sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the Lego store. Why you have no shirt on? Get out.
So no.
Okay, that was good. Good.
So to clear
I had a
it up,
whole image going. It's good. You
I
ruined
just
it.
want to make
You
it
ruined
clear, you know.
Sorry, go on.
So downtown Disney with my family. Went to the Lego store, you know. So just to put everyone in context, people watching us, first let's pivot.
You do love a good pivot.
I love a good pivot.
And now you don't even pivot. You just announce that you're going to pivot.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make it a pivot.
Yeah, but at least it's not going to look weird or out of context.
I'm now going to do something really tricky.
So share, like, subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, leave a very nice review, like a 5-star rate review or something. You know? So that is totally my recommendation.
That's a good recommendation.
I think it is.
Thanks for recommending that.
Okay, so let's get back to Rok. So where do you think, Rok, the industry or like the need for a home studio will go in regard of headphone for mixing in the future? Where do you think this is going? Because right now I find like more and more people are mixing on headphones.
Your guess is as good as mine. But I will say this. I do have a lot of feedback from our clients. Of course, loving them, and some not so much, but you know, in general, they love them because of the freedom that this tool actually gives you in this day and age. So, you know, it's really difficult to make a living in this industry with expenses of, you know, just setting the tools right are extreme. And it does create this kind of push, you know, of engineers and artists trying to do what they love, trying to make a life doing what they love.
Yeah.
But they really can't have 2 pairs of Genelecs and a proper preamp and nice treated room. They don't own a room. They can't really treat it. It's a rented apartment somewhere. And without doubt, 9 out of 10, if not more, the headphones are, you know, a safe boat. Where it will go, I don't know, but I'm quite sure that headphones will stick around for quite a while.
Yeah, they've been used like more than ever right now. I remember even like 5-6 years ago, watching YouTube videos about, you know, you can't mix on headphones. You need a pair of studio monitors.
That was a fact.
You know, it was a fact.
It was just,
you know, have a pair of headphones to check your mix on, but that's it, you know. So I'm just wondering, was that because back then headphone technology for mixing wasn't at the state they are right now, or it's just like a mindset thing?
It's both, without a doubt. So it is a technical advance that we've collectively achieved in the headphone space, for sure. That's one part. But it is about the mindset as well. And again, I'm going to illustrate, you know, how any individual will know if something sounds good or not. It's mainly based on their experience. So saying that, if you've been mixing for 30 years using speakers, whatever headphones you're going to buy are always going to trick you because you've learned to listen for speakers and to make decisions for speakers. So a trumpet sounds like a trumpet for speakers, not for headphones, for you. Well, on the other side, if you have people coming, you know, in the teenage years already and then starting producing mainly on headphones, for them, a trumpet will sound right in the headphones and not on the speakers.
It's interesting, like the first time and you probably had that moment where you went from monitor wedges to in-ears.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, who turned off the lights? Like there was this horrible time of acclimation, right? So that's a big one that we've talked about a couple times on here.
Yes.
Is people going from speakers to headphones and just not liking it. And so we've used the phrase learning time, right? That there's a period of learning where you just have to just commit to this new thing. And eventually when you take them off, now it sounds weird. It reverses after a while.
Even if you go lots of referencing, a lot of referencing.
It's all referencing.
It's all about that.
Yeah.
It's all about knowing what good music sounds like.
To you.
To me. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So
just quite quasi-technical. As we talk about advances in headphone technology and stuff, like obviously anything is a sum of its parts.
Sure.
But when you really get into this thing, like what is it, like where's the big quantum leap between a $10 pair of headphones and a nicer...
The thing with headphones is kind of similar to a room. We could do an analogy over there. So you can imagine it in a way as a room, like imagine that to be like a super huge headphone that you could walk in. There would be a speaker. It's only one speaker usually, mounted directly somewhere in the room maybe at an angle, stuff like that. And you would explore how it sounds. And it will sound different, of course, if you would move a little bit up or down or around, which illustrates, how we hear. We have different shapes and sizes of our ears. That also influences the full experience. But what I'm getting to is, you guys know this, if you have a big room and you have a big window, the moment you open that window, the sound in the room will completely change. And it's the same with a headphone. So the speakers do produce a lot and are important, but the room is just as important to work with the speakers. And the same principles apply to the headphones. So
if we take something like an AirPod, which is this tiny little nugget of space in a weird little vacuum-sized room, and it's creating a bit of the sound people are becoming accustomed to, I think, in their listening curve of a certain age. And then we as audiophiles and true listeners on a different level I just revel in the open back beauty of that. It's like, where do those two cross, right?
It's about serving the needs of audio engineers or artists, whatever the headphone is. So for example, the X1, these are the mixing headphone. So they need to be flat for obvious reasons. So if you hear everything and you've learned how to mix and you have the proper tools and techniques and knowledge, eventually you don't really need to check anything anywhere. While working in reverse, if you were, trying to mix with AirPods, of course you're going to place instruments, in a very different soundscape, because the illustration of that is very, very, very different. So we need to have a reference point, same as, visual artists do. They have calibrated monitors, and they have these, I don't know how you call these guys in the US, but we have like a RAL numbering system over here in Europe. So RAL number 9000 is gray, and that is exactly that shade of gray. So referencing is always important.
Now, there's a lot of tools when it comes to headphones, like especially for mixing, like crossfeed plugins and stuff like that, like room emulation plugins. So I tried all of them. Some I love mixing with crossfeed on. Room stuff, I used to like it. I don't that much anymore.
Yeah, makes me grumpy.
So how important do you think these tools are for someone who wants to use headphones for mixing? Are they that important, or you can go around them?
I'll flip it around. I'll flip it around really quickly. How important is the phantom center with speakers and the ideal listening position in the room? So the reality is, when you're mixing in a room, you are never 100% still. That's just not the reality. So you're moving in and out of the perfect position. So when you're in, you're in, you kind of gauge it like a little bit, move forward. That's a sweet spot. You're listening, you make a decision, and then you go out to basically check how things will change. And that's how you gauge your way through the mix. So how left should the guitars be in comparison to the vocals is not done in a static situation. It's not like you are sitting perfectly still and moving the fader and, making the panning to a perfect position. You do that, and then you move forward and backward, and you move a little bit around to get the idea of kind of like a range of where it sits. And that is the important thing. So all the tools and all the headphones, whatever, they don't have this factor of you moving around. That's why we use room emulations, and you use crossfeed and other things to check, when in reality you're not really checking how this will sound in this virtual environment. what you're doing is creating yourself a range of acceptable sonics for you, for your mix, for your song, for your panning, by moving around in a room, which is basically a virtual room, but because headphones don't, do that, don't reproduce that, you would just switch from one room to another room, to a third room, to a car emulation, to a hi-fi speaker emulation, to whatever emulation. But you're essentially doing the same thing. You're moving yourself out of the sweet spot to really gauge and check the ranges and if they are acceptable in all the situations. So it's the same thing. It's just kind of flipped.
Is it a good idea? Should I commit to this room emulation stuff?
If you have to.
Or crossfeed, without being a room.
Yeah, like I've just never committed to it because I always go, or I get distracted by how cool it is or whatever.
Yeah, like the head tracker
and then
stuff.
I just go back to what I was doing. But I don't know, maybe I should commit for a while. When you do, you talk about headphones, these being flat. What does that mean?
So flatten.
What does that phrase mean?
Yeah, because I always had a hard time with the word flat.
Yeah.
According to what? Yeah.
Exactly. That's the point right there. According to what? It's the same as what is white. White color.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be different in different situations for different people. So some will say flat, some will say balanced, some will say neutral, whatever different words are going to be, thrown around. And in a scientific approach, we don't have a consensus on what is flat. This is going to be interesting for you guys. We don't have an agreement on what is the 0 dB kind of value. We only have a range. So we can take all the research from the 60s till today, from Sennheiser, from us, from Sonarworks, from Harman, from Sony, and so on. Put all of those together, and the range, the frequency response of all these different ideas of flat will be roughly in about 5 dB range. So that means that scientifically, collectively, we can agree up to about 5 dB tolerances. So there's quite a lot of products in this range and can be considered flat and neutral. And I think you can learn to mix and do whatever you have to do using those.
So the follow-up on that is then how do you measure the other end? So how do you measure then what the headphone is doing? You can't just shove a microphone on a head. Like how do you?
In principle, you cannot use a measurement mic that you guys know from, measuring rooms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the principle of creating the frequency response with headphones is heavily reliant on the acoustical coupling between the headphone itself and a human head. It's an artificial head with microphones in there. So when you put headphones on that, the surrounding of the microphone itself is designed to kind of mimic the average human head. All right, let's just leave it at that.
And is that how the individual unit calibration is done between different pairs of these?
Yes. So we are using a slightly modified version of the 711 coupler. We are pushing in the pink noise, and we are comparing that pink noise with the ideal calibrated unit. And then we can see the deviations in pink noise from that unit within 10 seconds. And that can then be applied as a corrective EQ for that specific unit. And that's what you basically get.
Because that was a whole thing. When I got these, like there was a per serial number, login unit calibration file that then came and then applies, and it is a whole thing.
You work with dynamic drivers. Yeah. If you compare to planar magnetic drivers, for example,
it's just a different technology. So in reality, the dynamic drivers they have the capacity to move quite a lot, which is a good thing, but it does have its downsides as well. In comparison to the planar magnetics or even electrostatics, where the membrane is like very, very large, but it moves really, really little, really small movements, and it's very delicate. But it can create, of course, a lot of bass. It's not really an issue. because it's really, really large. So it moves a lot more air than a dynamic speaker, which is usually, smaller. 4, 5, 7 times smaller in the area that it covers in comparison to whatever planar magnetic. So, there are benefits when you are moving the membrane, very little. So little movements usually mean less harmonic distortion. I'll illustrate that because there's a really cool illustration. For anyone watching this, it's going to be pretty cool. So if you have a piece of paper and imagine that to be a membrane, if you try to move it, back and forth with 10 hertz, it creates a little bit of noise. And that is actually the harmonics. Because right now, what I'm creating as the driver is, I don't know how capable I am, but let's say it's 10 hertz, right? But you still hear something, and you're not capable of hearing 10 hertz. So what you are picking up are the harmonics from the membrane.
I see.
That are harmonics. That's not my hand moving. That's not the 10 hertz that I'm actually putting into the membrane.
Yeah.
I see.
You see. So when it comes to moving a membrane, a piece like that, with electrostatics or with planar magnetics, of course, they move very little. They can move really fast, but because they move very little, they create very little harmonics. When I have a driver, it's a nice illustration. So when I have if you would imagine that to be a dynamic driver, then the dynamic driver, to produce the same volume, especially in the low end, it needs to move quite a lot.
Yeah.
And the more you move it, of course, you're going to get more audible harmonics from the materials.
More chaos.
Distorted. So I hope that kind of explains it and illustrates it.
Actually, it does.
And what's one of the big conversations is the low end.
Yes.
On especially open back headphones.
Yes.
And I don't have a sub and I don't know what's going on and I play it in my car and it about blew me out of my chair. You hear that stuff, right? So what in your mind, if you're doing a record on headphones, what's the advice, workaround, response?
And so whenever we talk about bass, it is a movement of air molecules, and that is, just being produced in the headphone. But if we go back to the earlier debate when we explained the historical influence of your experience to how you perceive, we call this psychoacoustics scientifically, right? So how you perceive bass is directly correlated with your body experience when you're in a club, when you're in a studio, blasting your speakers out, stuff like that. So unless that is not, if it's missing, then you will tend to psychoacoustically think that it's missing in the headphones mix, which is far from the truth. Yeah.
It is a learning thing for me.
It is.
And the first time I really noticed, even before the headphone conversation, was going to my first time as a young lad going to a real mastering studio. And I just remember thinking, there's no low end in here. And he's sitting there working the low end EQ. And I can't hear what he's changing. And he's like, is that better? I'm like, I don't know. Like I've been on these tannoys that are the size of a house at the other studio, right? So he just spends all day in this room and he can hear that stuff. Like it's there. So it does. I think you're right. It does appear over time and learning and just referencing. You start referencing
a lot of referencing
with the tools.
That helps a lot.
You want to know how. Yeah, you need to reference a lot. I think that's my number one advice to anyone.
Time.
But talking about the future of mixing Atmos on headphones, will that be possible, or is it possible now?
It is possible the same way as it is possible to, make a mix on headphones, a stereo mix, and without having speakers. You can push the Atmos thing to headphones as well. Yeah, there are limitations, of course, but if you can learn and reference enough on that system, then I think there's absolutely no limits to that.
Hey, I'll tell you this. It's a good time to make music.
It is a good time.
That's all I have to say. And to mix music. So, hey, thanks a lot, Rok.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And good luck for the future with OLLO. And we just look forward to what is coming next.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Steve.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks.
Same.
Bye.
Cheers.